Hello and welcome to the Responsive Family Sleep Podcast. I'm your host, Kim Hawley, holistic sleep coach, lactation consultant, peaceful parenting educator, and mom. If you've ever felt overwhelmed by all the conflicting sleep info, frustrated with sleep information that just plain felt wrong, or searched desperately for a truly gentle and responsive sleep approach, then you are in the right place. In each episode, we'll be answering your most pressing baby and toddler sleep questions, busting those sleep myths, and helping you understand truly developmental, biologically normal baby and toddler sleep, plus encouraging you to trust your intuition along the way. Let's get started. Hello and welcome back to the podcast. This week, we are going to talk about crib transfers and what to do when you just can't get your baby to transfer into the crib. It's so frustrating, guys. I say this all the time, but I wish that there was some sort of proper, safe, legit option where you could just drop the side of the crib and not have to transfer over it. There used to be drop side cribs. They are not safe. So, it's not a thing, at least not in a crib. There are travel cribs with zip-down sides, but that's a different conversation. But it's so hard because some babies do it really well, and some babies really struggle. And when we're talking about promoting more independent sleep or more separate sleep, that transfer can really derail things because how much of it is baby is unable to maintain sleep without contact, and how much is it that stupid transfer is just waking baby up, getting them out of that night's deep sleep, just jostling them just enough that it all falls apart, right? And there's nothing more frustrating than getting a baby to sleep and transferring them and then they wake up, and then getting them back to sleep and then transferring them and they wake up, and just doing this dance over and over again, right? That is definitely one of the more frustrating things that we can get stuck doing with babies and sleep. So what do you do, right? The sleep training world would say, oh, put baby in the crib drowsy but awake, right? Then you're transferring them awake and they'll peacefully drift off to sleep. Yeah, right. I can hear some of you laughing at me, even in the future. Since, when you're listening to this, I can just imagine it, right? Totally. It's BS for most babies. Now, if you have one of those babies that did that really well, awesome, right? That's great. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's not a bad thing that your baby can do that, but it's the exception, right? It's not the rule. And so for most babies, trying to get them in their crib awake is a pretty stressful process and not necessarily one that's worth the energy, because going in the crib awake doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get better sleep overall, especially if we're creating a lot of stress, since stress undermines sleep. So now where does that leave you? Well, we can troubleshoot the transfer, right? And we can talk about that because there are some different ways that we can transfer babies, and sometimes it really does make a difference. So I will actually link to a blog post I wrote several years ago that goes through these tips, just so you can have it. Sometimes having a checklist is more helpful than a podcast for something like this. So that'll be in the show notes. But what are we looking for sort of an ideal transfer? We're waiting for baby to be in deep sleep, right? And so think about that melty kind of ragdoll baby sensation, right? Where if you pick up their arm, it's going to flop like a wet noodle, or like a rag doll. They don't have a lot of resistance. They're super melty into you. Their breathing is slow and even, right? Deep sleep. They're much more likely to stay asleep if you transfer them in deep sleep. Now, for a newborn, they enter sleep during right into active sleep. So that could mean waiting 20 minutes or so until they get into a deep sleep. For a slightly older baby, is a little bit less time obvious because they're going to move through some lighter phases of sleep before they get into deep sleep, but it's not quite as simple and straightforward. So we wait for deep sleep. We lower them slowly, right? Remember, they're all snuggled up against their parent or some other trusted person, warm, snuggly. We're carry mammals. That's their happy place. That's their natural habitat in arms. And then we're not only lifting them up and over the side of something, lowering them down into that bassinet or crib, but we're moving them away from warmth, right? We're moving them away from our body, from that co-regulation. So moving slowly and lowering them so that their bottom half of their body touches the mattress first. And that could be on their back, or many babies feel more secure when you lower them on their side. And so still kind of going for that slight angle so their hip and their legs are touching the mattress first. And that just keeps us from accidentally tipping them more head first, right? Which is really going to trigger a startle in a young baby or, just not a good sensation in an older baby. So if we get them down on their side, then we're going to gently roll them to their back. Unless we're talking about an older baby that, maybe will immediately wiggle themselves onto their tummy. So we roll them to their back. And we're just going to keep our hands on them for, a minute. Maybe one arm is sort of still snuggled around their head, like you're holding them. And one might be on their chest or their belly, right? Just giving that snuggle sensation as they adjust to being flat on their back on a mattress instead of snuggled up on a human. And then we want to gently ease our hands away. So hopefully they felt our touch as they maybe shift up into a little bit of a lighter sleep and then kind of settle back down into that deeper sleep. We can also help by getting the fitted sheet on the mattress to smell like the parent, because babies attach to the senses. And so if you can get the sheet to smell like you, then as they're sleeping, they're going to smell you, and that's going to help you feel close to them or them feel close to you, even as you're not still holding them. So that could look like, sleeping with the sheet, shoving it up under your shirt for a while. It could look like squirting a little breast milk, a little human milk onto the sheet so it smells a little bit like you. I mean, most nursing or lactating parents, right? You probably have some milk leaked on you somewhere. And that gets, get a little bit of your scent, get a little bit of your milk onto the sheet. That can be helpful. And if you're not nursing, then just getting your scent on, right? Right. That will be an important step. We don't necessarily want to splash formula onto a sheet. That's not necessarily going to help, but we can get your scent on it. And it's really a great place to be. Some families find warming the sheet helps. So we're going from warm, snuggly adult to warm mattress. And in that case, you might take like a hot water bottle or a heating pad on low, warm the sheet just a bit, remove whatever you use to warm the sheet, check that it's not hot, right? Check that it's just warm before you put baby down. Or if you have two adults, that's a great thing for another person to do. Especially with very young babies, we don't want them to overheat. So we do need to make sure that we're not putting them down like on a hot sheet, right? Just like a slightly warmed sheet. So that can help, especially in the winter. And then also just making sure that we are transferring. If we've had a lot of trouble with transfers, I would start with sleep times where they are really tired and that sleep tends to come easily, as opposed to times where you're already struggling to get them to go to sleep and stay asleep. So this can look like the first nap of the day very often, if we're talking about naps, and bedtime very often. And just make that a consistent part of your routine, get success there, and then kind of start expanding from there. Now, I will be honest, not all babies transfer, right? We can only troubleshoot so far, and some babies really, really, really struggle with that transfer. And so can we avoid the transfer? Well, we can. We can do a floor bed. We can co-sleep. We can bed share. If you can do that safely and you're comfortable with that, you can do a floor bed in which you're getting baby down on, their own bed, but then shifting away. And then I have lots of families that will also use a travel crib with a zip side as a floor bed and then zip it up when they get back up. And so they still have that containment. So there are options for working on separate sleep without the transfer. And of course, there are options for contact sleep and avoiding the transfer, right? So I don't think we can always tell, which babies are struggling with the transfers because we need to tweak our transfer technique. We need to be more consistent. We need to maybe increase sleep pressure and work on our overall sleep picture. And which ones just are going to struggle. We don't always know until we're in it, and kind of try all the tricks and the troubleshooting. And then are we getting progress or are we still just floundering, right? And I will often suggest, hey, don't try to transfer your baby like a million times. It's so frustrating. So figure out what that magic number is for you. Is it one transfer and then you contact nap, or you bed share if that's your alternative, like whatever it is that you're doing safely. Is it one transfer? Do you feel good about trying 2 transfers before saying enough is enough for right now? Just have some sort of rule of thumb so that you're not doing that failed transfer dance for ages and ages and just the stress and frustration. I find a lot of families feel just so much lighter and freer when it's like, okay, I'm trying once or I'm trying twice, and then my plan B is whatever it is that makes sense for your family. So I hope that gives you some ideas to think about and some tips to try. And someday maybe we'll have an alternative that makes transfers a little easier while also giving that option for crib support. Maybe. I'll hope. Good luck with those transfers. Thank you for joining me today. I hope this episode left you feeling more informed, confident, and encouraged on your sleep journey. And just a reminder before you go that nothing in this episode is individualized to your specific sleep situation, nor is it to be taken as medical advice. Take what resonates, ignore what doesn't, and check with your healthcare provider about any medical concerns. Take a moment to subscribe to this podcast so that you'll never miss an episode. And take a moment to rate, review, or share an episode you love on social media. All of that helps parents just like you find me, this podcast, and this gentle and responsive sleep information. I'll see you next time.